As the quest for knowledge continues to progress forward, we find ourselves still asking questions about human behavior, social technology, and the future of mankind. In a world devoid of such discussion, 2 Crowder College instructors have been chosen to podcast their views on current events, weird science, and pop culture. And now, broadcasting from Crowder College, this is Psych with Nathan and Jason.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Welcome to Psych Out, episode 40. Are we 40 already?
Oh my gosh, we're 40.
Over the hill, as they say. Episode 40 here of Psych Out. I'm your host, Nathan Gandy, psychology instructor here at Crowder College. And here I apparently could not talk anymore.
I'm Jason Edgar, speech instructor here on campus.
Yes.
And Nathan probably can't talk because he's been sick for a while.
Man, it was still is kind of rough 4 days. I had to miss some class, but I am here because we have not missed a week yet. And we'll keep podcasting.
And our listeners probably don't know this, but aside from maybe the Monday and Tuesday of the beginning of the week, me and Nathan never bump into each other. So I didn't even know he was sick.
We have pretty busy weekends.
I'm calling him on Friday of the debate tournament. Hey,
asking me random questions.
Tell me psychologically why everybody's racist. He's like, I'll tell you.
Which, by the way, was the exact lead-in to your conversation. It was not, hey man, what's up? Hey, I got a question for you about debate. It was, hey man, can you tell me psychologically why people are racist? Like, you just went right for it.
I didn't tell you it was a debate around.
You just went right into it. I mean, I had context clues. I figured it out. I guess, you're like, hey man, I got a question. Why are people racist? Like,
I have debate friends. I guess you're obviously a big friend, but I have debate friends that I'll call because we have 30-minute prep time during IPDA, and and a lot of them are lawyer friends, and I'll call and be like, hey, how come insurance companies can't do this? And then my friends are like, oh, it's because you did, and then I'll be like, oh, thank you. So, but yeah, you answered pretty good. And by the way, if you're curious as to the answer why everybody's racist, what you said was, evolutionarily, it's easier for us to compartmentalize, right?
Yes.
So,
the word stereotype itself is not an inherently bad or good word. It's just what we do. We love quickly putting information into boxes because your brain doesn't like mystery. It just wants to know.
Yeah.
But since we compartmentalize, we can pick pretty sometimes superficial qualities. Like your skin color is different. And since that's not my skin color, I'm going to put myself in this group, and I'm going to put myself in that group. And that can snowball pretty quickly into, oh, and by the way, my group is superior because I'm in it, and your group's inferior.
Oh, well, there you go.
So race is an example, but yeah, you can pick almost anything to do that with. So, yeah, it was a fun discussion in our 2 minutes on the phone where you're like, give me some stuff, I got to go.
Well, instead of discussing evolutionary psychology, which would be fun, we'll go ahead and start off with some current events. And you were excited. Batman was in the news, or maybe a smaller version.
Yes.
And because of the debate tournament, it was newsworthy, but maybe not, global news. So I actually didn't even hear a lot about it. So tell us about Bat-Kid.
Bat-Kid. All right. And let me pull up his name real quick because I want to make sure. Is Miles Scott, I believe. Let me double check. Yes. Was a 5-year-old boy diagnosed with cancer. And, of course, cancer is difficult to fight for any age, but for children, very difficult. And many listeners are probably familiar with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few charities out there that basically realize children with either debilitating illnesses, life-threatening diseases, they try to collect donations and fulfill a wish. That could be like, I've always wanted to meet this rock star, or I've always wanted to visit Disney. Try to pay for the parents and the kid to have an opportunity to do something really impressive. Well, Miles' 5-year-old Make-A-Wish was apparently he wanted to be Batman, and not just content with, let's buy costumes and let's kind of a trick-or-treating scenario where let's go places dressed as a Batman. They actually got volunteers throughout the city of San Francisco to shut down parts of the city for hours, and for the men and women citizens to be basically volunteer as citizens of Gotham City. And so Bat-Kid actually went with another adult dressed as Batman, solved crimes, stopped villains, so people were just like the Riddler, the Joker,
Cool.
and so a scripted play basically where he got to drive in the Batmobile and fight crime and rescue hostages. So I mean, not only is it a fun story because a kid is getting his wish, but I think it speaks to that sort of larger, awesome story of, again, these are men and women volunteering their time, shutting down their businesses, all to be part of this narrative to help this kid's dream come true. And on the sort of Hollywood side, there's been some really neat support. For example, all the actors who played Batman have made shout-outs to him and said things about him. I posted on my Facebook, even President Obama made a Vine, a little video clip, basically, thank you, Bat Kid, for saving the city. So, I mean, that's beyond the scope of what I think even Make-A-Wish could have imagined.
Sure.
And certainly one of those just good stories you want to hear to remind us that, generally speaking, people are good and ready to do things. I mean, we'll talk about some pretty strange people today in current events. But my Batman affinity aside, it's just a great story. To let a kid basically face some pretty tough demons by being someone so powerful.
Yeah. And what a cool foundation too. Like, I've heard of Make-A-Wish for years and years, and sometimes these wishes are just like, well, I want to visit Six Flags in St. Louis, and so, man, shutting down the entire city of San Francisco, that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, my guy is the mayor of Toronto,
and this is actually a story that I thought about bringing up several times. I thought, no, this is just one of those weird little political things. But then it just keeps snowballing to the point where even we on Psych have to bring it up.
And another thing, Nathan, is that apparently he's been in the news before, but it's just recently caught on that he's been in really bad news. But anyways, and like Nathan said, this might not be, this is new as far as like us talking on the Psych Out, but apparently this Rob Ford, he's the mayor of Toronto, it started with him getting caught smoking crack or admitting that he smoked crack on camera.
Yeah, they're on camera. Yeah, I believe he was using it on camera.
Yeah, with people, and people that were around him looked like crack users too. And so anyways, he apologizes for this, but the way he apologizes is that he says, well, I must have accidentally smoked crack during one of my drunken stupors. And so
which is possible, by the way. That doesn't address another problem, but that's possible, yes.
And again, like, this isn't just like your run-of-the-mill, person, like, walking down the interstate. This is the mayor of one of the largest countries on the planet, and they probably shouldn't be even going to one drunken stupor, let alone numerous.
Right, and that's probably my favorite part of the story. And by the way, I'm not laughing at someone's problem. This gentleman has a problem, but in our political narrative, it's very common to think about, here's the one political problem someone did, and maybe that's what got them in trouble, or that's what got them kicked out. They had an affair, they had a drug problem, and here's the thing they did. But here's a political candidate who's like, one of my many problems, and has come out multiple times. And I find that very interesting for numerous reasons. Now, this is certainly a psychological thing because to have that level of compulsive behavioral problems, and even new stuff's come out now with how he's talking about his wife and his dialogue and things I won't get into. That speaks of a very interesting line between like the politician as the celebrity, as the person who does this thing who we elect, and the politician as a person. Like, here's a dude with problems. Yeah. And like, Jason, if you had this problem, which I hope you don't. I don't think you do.
Crack?
I would say, from my perspective, I would probably be more likely to empathize with you. I'd be like, man, Jason's got a problem.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But like, that crazy guy, like, politician, well, he got elected. Like, it's kind of interesting how we disconnect. And apparently, if this behavior is happening for a long time, we kind of were just like, well, that's a dude in power. Let him do his crazy thing.
Yeah.
And as long as he doesn't go too crazy, we're okay.
And you touched up on his allegations with his staffers on being inappropriate and sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And whenever he apologizes about that, he kind of throws his wife under the table, saying, I have plenty of sexual activity at home.
Right.
And it's like, geez, can this guy just shut up? Saturday Night Live, they opened with Toronto. So, and it was really, really good. So what's next? He said two more things about this. He says he wants to run for Prime Minister of Toronto. or not Toronto, Canada.
Yeah.
So he wants to be the
right.
president. And also, this comes at a really bad time for Toronto and Canada, because I guess they're having their own version of the Super Bowl is kind of like this week, and the team. I think Toronto's in it, and so he's like endorsing the team, and the team is like, no, don't endorse us. You're terrible. And listeners probably don't understand, but there is a prime minister out there, or ex-prime minister of Italy, Silvio Berlusconi. He also had a bunch of problems like this. Oh, and also prostitution and things like that for Rob Ford. So basically, these mayors and prime ministers are acting like Charlie Sheen, So just think about what Charlie Sheen was doing back a couple years ago, and cross-apply that to a global leader.
Right.
So,
and again, I think that goes back to the point of when people have a certain level of power, we almost just say, well, we don't use. That's not crazy. That's just eccentric. Like that's just what people do. When clearly, hey, there's a problem. Maybe that should be addressed.
Hey, one last thing in current events, Nathan, and this is probably going to be, it's impromptu for you, but the week this airs is November 22nd, and that means that we're hitting the 50th anniversary of the John F. Kennedy assassination.
Yes, that's been in the news, certainly.
Huge, historically huge, as far as, I mean, you could say psychologically with John Wilkes Booth, but also conspiracies and things like that. So maybe just a time for reflection. What do you take from JFK? Now, under the caveat that neither one of us were born at the time.
Right, absolutely. A couple of things. First of all, I don't know how much of this is true. This is just my perception. That I wonder if that was the last time that we felt as close to a president before that barrier happened. In this case, a literal barrier. Like, okay, we got to keep them in protected limos, and we, be careful how we.
Oh, sure.
Secret Service. I wonder if that wasn't the beginning of the end of. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Running up to him and getting him
in the
a
back
chocolate.
of a car, like a parade, like Miss America. Like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, and I understand why that's happened, but that's an unfortunate consequence. I do recognize that as far as presidencies go, regardless of anyone's political affiliation of any president, it reminds us that the taking of a president is just a horrible thing to even fathom. I mean, there are presidents where I have thought, I'm ready for this guy to leave. I'm tired of this particular individual. But just the national heartache and the confusion and the anger, and I'm glad we haven't had to go through that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being there, like, again, not the Kennedy even specifically, but just like our president was killed. I mean, not since I guess Lincoln. I don't remember my president history, but it had been quite a while before the president died in office.
Reagan said that there was there was an attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
and since then,
that was the last attempt that we've had, and the only one after Kennedy. So that's what I think about now. As far as your great statement on, it's probably the father of all conspiracy theories in the U.S. I don't have any grand opinions on that. I don't have any problem believing a lone person did this. I don't have a problem believing that forces contracted a person. I think ultimately, if we answer that question as best we can, there's still going to be some who say, no, I don't believe it. Here's my version. And ultimately, though, at this point in our history, I'm not particularly interested in the why. I think I have enough of an answer, because if you let's go with the one shooter, the Oswald example. There's no grand conspiracy, there's no great political motivations other than this one person did a bad thing because he was out of his mind. Yeah, it's not a satisfying answer, but it reminds us that sometimes we don't get satisfying answers. Sure. And instead we should learn from the event and not focus on, well, I got to prove this happened.
There's just a couple of things, like I remember Oswald, the idea of Oswald shooting him and then doing what he did, like shooting those 3 bullets in like 9 seconds and doing what he did. Like a skilled marksman couldn't even do it, and Oswald wasn't a really good shot. And you hear about like the grassy knoll and things like that. Classic, right? But here's the biggest thing that really debunks all of conspiracy theories, and it also with 9/11 is like, especially assassinating the president or killing 3,000 people in one swoop. Like, how do you keep that a secret?
Yes.
Like all the people that are involved, you have way too many people involved in things like that, and Maybe, and like you said, even if we got an answer to that, yes, there was a conspiracy, there was a second gunman, we would even have just more questions, as opposed, like, why did they do it and things like that.
Well, yeah, and that's my favorite counter answer to the conspiracy theorist is, like you said, we don't live in a time where we can really hang on to these anymore. I mean, we've got politicians who can't keep the fact that they had sex with a person in a private hotel.
Sure.
And so you're telling me, dozens of high-ranking people, saying, I don't even want to get into the debate, but yeah, it's one of those things there. And I think, unfortunately, because it's the father of conspiracy theories, that we do miss that bigger point. Like, what was the national tragedy about? Why did we mourn the loss of this president? What does that mean for us if we were to lose a leader? What does the presidency even mean to us today? I think those are better questions to ask than who did what.
Yes.
That's me.
Yes, Nathan. What can your country do for you?
That's beautiful. It's like I was there. Like I was back in time. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break there because we have some awesome things. We have a very special Weird Science coming up with a very special guest.
More like a Weird Science quiz.
Yeah.
Made me sweat.
And then our interview, we've been advertising with Mr. Zoromski, talking a bit about Thanksgiving and some of the myths and misconceptions.
And what I took from the interview is that it really all comes down to just a beer run.
Yeah, I think pretty much.
So,
we were founded on beer, missing keg.
Stick around for that, if anything.
All right, we'll take a break there. We'll see you soon. To a very special Weird Science. First of all, it's weird because we have 3 people sitting in front of the mics.
Yeah, we only did this one other time with Dr. Coltharp.
That's true. That shows
Which
you.
mic do I use?
I feel just speak openly. I think it will carry. It's actually they're pretty good mics when they're not yelling at Jason, which is quarter last week. So normally we bring stories of strange or unusual scientific research, sometimes submitted by listeners. But today we're going to do things a bit different. Family member of mine, my mother, who is an educator, sent me science questions from a book. And let me cite the book. It's called F for Effort.
F for effort.
Yes.
Man, that would have helped me
And
a lot.
it's basically actual test questions that teachers submitted and were published.
Dumb science.
Dumb science is going to be it. So these are all science questions, and so I'm going to ask the question to you, our host and guest host.
And we'll give fake answers.
You guys try to get the real answer. All right, because I'm going to test.
Keith thought what I was saying.
Yeah.
Practicing my Lamaze.
Right.
If it's wrong, I'll just say it was my fault.
Absolutely. That's how you kind of. So I'm going to ask these science questions. Now, to be fair, some of these I don't remember. That's not the point. But then I'm going to share you the answer submitted by an actual student.
Okay.
And that's kind of the joke of this.
Yes.
But I'm going to give you a chance.
By the way, this doesn't violate FERPA, does it?
It does not if you do it anonymously. So,
okay, there we go.
Can you make up names for the students?
Yes. All of them are named Gary because
Gary.
I just hate Gary.
Gary needs to retake science. Okay.
All right, so here's question number 1. All right? You'll love this one. Question number 1. Can a man still reproduce with only one testicle?
What do you think, Keith?
I would say yes, but he would feel like he's only half the man he was.
Yellow card on the pun.
Sorry.
I'll also say yes. I think that there's
I would
other.
agree.
The answer is yes. The answer a student put, no, girls don't find that attractive.
Well, girls, I've been told, like symmetry.
There you go.
And so if you have one, but
Is that where you do the awkward turtle?
I like to see a dating website that just says turn-ons, symmetry. All right. Question number 2. Name 3 uses of skin.
3 uses of skin.
Yes, this is something I actually bring up.
Now, is this like an animal skin?
Yeah.
Or human skin.
Human skin.
Oh, okay.
Human skin.
That teacher might need to reassess.
Probably could be a better. I assume this is in a biology class. So.
Human
What
skin.
do we use our skin for?
Yes.
Well, I've learned even on Psych that we can use it to test people's skin conductance, right? Whether
Yep.
they're,
It conducts
sweating or not.
electricity. That's
Okay,
an
there's my
acceptable
answer.
Do you have one?
I would say to protect.
Protect from the elements. Yes.
Protect elements, absolutely correct. And my third answer, again, they're not on here, but I would say it also regulates temperature by enclosing,
cool.
keeps our organs the same temperature.
Weird science.
Here's the answer for name 3 uses of skin. Makes your appearance more normal.
Yeah, we all hate Inside Out boy, right?
It doesn't show your ribs or your insides.
he focused on the ribs.
Focused on
That's
that.
funny. You don't. It covers up your
Okay, and here
kneecaps.
is, I guess similar to what Keith and I said, it keeps part of the wind from getting in.
Is that how you get a little gas?
That's right. It's like, it's really cold in my liver. I'm feeling that. I always feel that way when people, I think I've talked about this on Psych. I'm talking about Jason too, of like when people wear vests when they're cold.
Yeah.
Like the thick, huge, like not dress vest, but like the big Arctic. Because I'm like, I'm really cold here, but I'm like, I guess
My
your
arms are
organs-
freezing.
Right.
You should call him Marty McFly.
You should, you do.
It's not a life
I
vest.
have an orange vest. I'll bring for him to wear. I have the exact vest just for him.
Is it wool?
This,
All right.
I'm not for sure, really.
What's that, velvet? That's a movie. Okay, question number 3. Either of you, define post-mortem.
Post-mortem?
Yes.
After death.
Yes, that is the correct. Their answer.
I know your Latin.
Their answer after 12 o'clock.
But what if you died at 12 o'clock?
I guess so.
Just mortem.
Just mortem.
Post after death, like I thought ad meant post in Latin. Never mind. Latin science.
Post is after, I believe. Right? All right. Number 4. Name 4 methods of locomotion in animals.
Everybody's locomotion.
A bonus point for your 80s remake. I assume you're doing the 80s version.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And not the 70s.
I just taste the other locomotion remakes.
Yeah.
Wait, could you repeat the question?
All right. 4 forms of locomotion in animals. How do they move with the locomotion? So.
Wait, I got this.
Okay, good.
Very carefully.
I gotta be honest.
Let me give you one. Legs.
Oh, bipedalism.
All right, bipedalism with you.
Oh, how about flight? Is that
Flight. There you go.
I'm so good at this.
What if a Giselle is in a lion's mouth and it's being carried?
Transport.
Transport, okay.
Food transport.
Like a pachyderm.
Yes. Well, there are some.
No, I'm sorry, marsupial, not pachyderms.
No,
Such an idiot.
There are aquatic wildlife that don't they ride on other animals. So I'd say that.
Oh yeah, you can ride on that turtle. I can find
Yeah,
an emo.
there you go. All right, so here the students' answers for name 4 methods of locomotion animals: forwards, backwards, sideways, up and down. Apparently, they were going for 3-dimensional space.
North, south,
That
east,
could
and west.
be a dance. Forward,
Yeah.
backwards,
Do the animal locomotion.
side to side, up and down.
So let's go back to the song. So whenever they're saying "do the locomotion," they're just saying "move."
I believe so.
Wow.
I don't know if it's been a while since I've heard that as a kid, but I don't know if trains were ever explicitly
Yeah,
implied in that
the
song.
lance time I was in a skating rink was when I heard it.
But they say everybody doing a brand new dance now.
Yeah.
But is that new?
It's now.
I'm sorry. I now have awesome images of you in a skate.
Wait, how old were you? Was this like a year ago?
It's like, can you do that thing where you cross foot over
Skating
foot?
rinks, probably mid or late '80s, early '90s, doing the old locomotion
Last year,
at the
got you.
skating
Okay.
rink.
Let's see. Number 5. I don't know if I can answer this one. List 5 ways that plants interact with each other. I'm thinking things like pollination,
Yeah.
germination,
Some other big words.
words with Asian on the end.
Yeah.
You guys got any?
Photosynthesis.
That's with the sun.
I am never good at this.
So,
With
list 5 ways that plants interact with each other. Students answer, they don't. They're plants. They can't talk or hang out. Is this a trick question?
I think that shows critical thought.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, good argumentation.
Oh gosh, here's question number 6. Define germination.
Becoming a German citizen.
That was their answer. That was their
You got
answer.
the fake answer.
I do what I can.
Or germ nation, yeah. There we go.
There you go.
I was that Gary.
Like, you are Gary. That's going to be my new insult to our listeners. That's so Gary. All right.
So sorry. Gary,
Apparently a lot of plant questions here. In flowers, what function does the pistil, P-I-S-T-I-L, serve?
I think that's the... What's on me?
You started talking.
Yeah,
That was
sorry.
your fault for making noises,
Being
sir.
a gentle.
Probably like transporting from one to another.
I don't have. You could once you Google that.
Pistol. Okay.
Pistol. Yeah, I think it's something that extends and either collects pollen or distributes pollen. It has something to do with reproduction in plants.
Yes, reproduction.
But I don't know. Their answer, it's a type of gun the flower uses to defend itself against bees. I think that person was just giving up on life at that point. Number 8.
Oh, it's female reproduction, so it's kind of like the
All right, there we go.
vagina.
We've had podcasts on sex, and you're
Which
like,
doesn't make sense. Why would that be called a pistol?
All right.
Anyways.
Number 8. Name one advantage that sexual reproduction has over asexual reproduction. All right, serious answers here, because this is a good biology question that I even use.
Reproduction.
Yes.
They're both reproduction, but what advantage does sexual reproduction have over asexual reproduction?
Partnership.
Why? Why is that important for biology? You know this.
Wait for it.
I'm totally pressured him.
Wait for it.
What do we pass on when we
Genes.
There it is. Yes. Right. Diversity in genes.
Like blue jeans?
Yes. You can. Wow, that's an interesting sexual relationship. Wow. Thanks for the fun. Here's my genes.
I see.
I just hope Dr. Brolio isn't watching this because I have to take his class.
Their answer: the advantage of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction. It feels good.
Yep.
So well played. Well played.
Giggity goo.
All right. Okay, this is like a story question. Here we go. Alice places a prepared slide on her microscope, but when she looks into it, she can't see anything. Suggest one reason why.
Open your eyes.
Yeah, I think the student said she is blind. I think that's a fair answer.
Using the wrong eye, or
I would say, teacher, you asked a poor question.
Yeah.
On that one.
What is it?
How would you keep wine from turning into vinegar? Is question number 10. I do not know about chemistry.
drink it.
That was their answer. Yeah. Well done. Well done. I have no idea.
Do we want to actually get that one?
Yeah. Look at that one because I don't know about
go
that.
ahead.
All right. Now here is number 11. The final question for both of you. So this is.
Do you need some intro music?
Yeah, this is. I think this is you as a parent and me as a future parent is an important question for us to be able to answer. Number 11. When a child swallows a cleaning product, why is milk often given? So a child ingests a poison.
Try to make him vomit, probably, right?
Or so your wife doesn't find out and you get in trouble.
I think both are acceptable. Look at that answer for me, Jason. I assume it slows down something or makes you throw up.
I would say because too much milk, the stomach can't.
Yeah, by the way, it can't. I did that. I tried that. I did try the gallon. As a teacher.
As a teacher.
And teaching in St. Louis, we were teaching night classes, and it was kind of like rounding up end of the week, into the class, and another teacher said, hey, I wonder if that's real. Let's do it. And so her and I decided to do it.
It's any liquid, right?
Yeah. It's a spatial value.
I've heard you trying to eat bananas and Sprite, like a bunch of bananas and Sprite at the same time is tough.
I think that's a weird thing to even try. But
I tried to have Mentos and Diet Coke at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It was not pretty.
All right, so Jason, did you find an answer? Biologically, why should we give milk to a child when they've swallowed poison?
It contains a sugar called lactose that the human body is unable to digest by itself. Disaccharide. It has a long. I guess this case has sugar in it, and I guess sugar is going to assist you with getting the old.
Going to block the digestion of certain things?
Yeah.
I'll go with that. Better than the question the student put, when a child swallows cleaning product, why give them milk? The answer, to make them happy before they die.
See, I would ask, why were your cleaning products accessible to that child?
Absolutely.
You should have safety proof, baby proof.
Right, that should be like a bonus point. Call your DFS or something. I don't know. All right, again, that was from a book, F for Effort, more of the very best totally wrong answers for tests. So,
Well, and here's another thing. It'll also curd up in your system, and it will coat your intestines, give you a case of indigestion, and if you swallow poison, indigestion is exactly what you want.
oh, there we go.
So,
Look,
there we go.
So
Yes.
we're on board there.
Thanks, interwebs.
All right, well, Mr. Z, thanks for coming and being part of Weird Science. Now we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will interview this guy.
Yeah,
here
that guy.
And learn all about Thanksgiving, pilgrims, turkeys, and festive eel consumption.
Good times.
All right, see you then.
Jack the Ripper, Jack the Crane. Take a ride down the West Coast Kid. Holiday,
Welcome back to Psych Out, where we are joined with our special guest interview, Mr. Keith Zoromski, which you said Mr. Z is okay.
Yes,
right?
I'm just impressed you said it correct.
Well, I kept making Jason say it over and over in the last couple podcasts. I thought I should get it right this time. And you told me, which is not part of our interview, though, that's a Polish name?
It is Polish. Even though I'm more German and Russian than I am Polish, I'm basically an American mutt.
You kept... You kept the name.
We did. I chose it upon birth.
You did. All right, wherever the baby puts their hand, that's the name you get. All right, well, you are here at Crowder now. This is your first semester as a full-time instructor for Crowder, right? But you have taught for us for a while. How long?
Yes, I've been an adjunct for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And over the last 8 years, I taught in the Carthage R9 School District.
So that's public school, and then were you doing both at the same time? At some point, did that overlap?
Yes, they overlapped the last 2 years. I was a jack of many trades, or many hats, or many trade hats.
As a band instructor I had once said, jack of all trades, master of none.
That was sometimes it. Pop in a video, we're good to go. I did not just say that.
American education on display. Well, great to have you here. Now, we're like hallmates, so that's how we finagled you into come this way. But we brought you here specifically because as a history/geography teacher, which two things we're going to talk about, this is our Thanksgiving episode.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your pilgrim friends. I don't know. It's like Happy Holidays. I don't know. Are there seasonal songs? Are there Thanksgiving songs?
I don't know. Maybe we get some hats with buckles and ring some bells.
I guess Peanuts is a cartoon. They have a cartoon for everything.
That is true.
So, I don't know. Not a lot of... It's kind of like Halloween, October 31st, and then if department stores have taught me anything, then it's Christmas. So Thanksgiving is kind of somewhere.
I saw it at Lowe's Christmas decorations October 15th.
Nice. So sorry, Thanksgiving. You are the stepchild of holidays here in the U.S. But one that is part of certainly Americana, Christmas was sort of an international thing. Thanksgiving itself is, though other countries use the Thanksgiving moniker, we're talking about American Thanksgiving based on a colony Indian situation.
That is correct, and we'll get to the Lions losing every year at a later point.
That's just called tradition.
Oh, okay.
That's what that's part of. So.
I understand. Let me ask you this first. Go back to your kindergarten days.
All right.
You still had the goatee, but you were a little shorter.
A little bit shorter, a lot of napping, possible pace consumption.
I miss naps. But what were you taught as a child about Thanksgiving?
All right, my kindergarten version, which I would imagine is, for a lot of us, the only version we know. We've got pilgrims, a colonist from England who came to escape religious persecution.
Fair enough.
They landed, and you said kindergarten, I don't even know if religion, but to found a new colony for their beliefs.
You can roll it into first grade.
Yes, and however, for reasons that weren't clearly defined in kindergarten and first grade, they did not bring food or did not have enough food, and they were there at the winter. They could not survive without the help of their Indian companions, because in kindergarten it was Indians, not Native Americans. And so we now celebrate by having a feast with friends and family in order to remember how people came together and helped each other survive a terrible winter.
I would say that's pretty.
That sound like a kindergarten version?
That's what I was taught.
Okay.
Then jump ahead to Macy's having a Thanksgiving Day parade. And
giant balloons, Lions game, as you said, and there we are.
Well, what do you think of in Americana when the Pilgrims came? What's the first thing you think?
Mayflower?
They came on the Mayflower.
Yes.
The old joke goes, if April showers bring Mayflowers, what do Mayflowers bring? Pilgrims, people, etc.
I grow violent at Laffy Taffy humor, so let's save those puns.
Note to self. Get stun guy.
for campus safety.
Yes, it's best. Yes. So Mayflowers and Plymouth Rock are the words thrown around when we talk about early
and
colonies.
what you were sharing is not necessarily a downright lie. Most of it is based in truth.
Right.
It's just leaving out a lot of details. First, the Pilgrims. When we talk about the Pilgrims, a lot of people get Pilgrims and Puritans mixed up. Two totally different groups, yet next-door neighbors.
Yes.
We'll get to them in a moment, but let's start with the Pilgrims. They were a separatist group. You see, at that time, the Church of England was run by the king. The king oversaw the Church of England. It was part of the Protestant movement, but you didn't have a whole lot of religious freedom if you disagreed with the monarchy.
Sure.
And so, at the time, King James the First wanted them gone. And so, pilgrims such as the famed William Bradford took with their followers and actually went to Holland. A lot of people think that they came just right over to America, but they went to Holland first.
Now, jump back to something you said. You said wanted them gone. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it because they had sort of, like in religion, cobbled together their interpretation, which and this is not the political term, this is a sort of a philosophy term, conservative or...
Yeah.
But there was a minutia that was quite different
They didn't
than
quite
their...
view biblically that the king had authority over them.
Okay.
That a heavenly father was to be worshipped and praised.
Instead of the monarchy then. Okay.
Correct. And so they weren't, outright anarchists by any means.
Okay. Right.
But the fact of the matter is they were a headache for, the sovereignty of the king.
It was a theology that didn't quite gel with what
Exactly.
they had. Right.
And so it was a reform or leave, and so it was in a win-win situation that King James I granted them pass to leave to go to Holland.
So Holland now. We're at Holland. Why didn't we stay in Holland?
Well, to quote Nigel Powers from the Austin Powers series, there's only two things I can't stand. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch. Now, that may be a joke, but the fact of the matter is the Pilgrims were worried that their children were becoming too Dutch-like.
Wow.
They still wanted to keep their English traditions
Gotcha.
and not take on those of the Dutch. A lot of people also don't realize that they only know the Mayflower. There are actually two ships, but one of them was not safe to sail out to sea, so they basically had to turn around and put everybody on the Mayflower.
That was from Holland or from England?
From Holland going to the
so
New
it made it to Holland,
Yes.
but couldn't keep going.
And so they're going to take these two ships to go to the New World. One is not seaworthy to turn around, and basically, you imagine you have so much seating in two cars.
Yeah.
One car breaks down, you got to put everybody else in the other one. You've now got about 100 people in a ship that was not meant to take 100 people.
And so 3 hours is what, 3 months? Or how many?
And a lot of people also don't realize is that you didn't just have the Pilgrims on the boat, you had other craftsmen and skilled workers that the Pilgrims had paid that they wanted to come with them. So you have people of different religions, people of different families, people of, different maritime beliefs of, I like being on a boat, to, I'm going to throw up.
Right.
And this was something that really was seen as a pilgrimage. And getting the term pilgrim, it means a traveler going to a holy place.
Yes.
And so they felt that by going to this new world, this America, yet to be created, colonized, getting there, that they were pilgrims in their faith.
So where were they heading intentionally? Like, what was the colony, I guess?
They were actually going to the Virginia colony.
Okay.
That was already set up there at Jamestown in 1607. This year is 1620, and that's where they were going. They were blown off course, and when they came across the Atlantic, they were northern. They were closer to Cape Cod.
Okay.
The only problem was, late in the year, early December, it didn't leave a lot of time to keep sailing down the coast when they were starting to run out of supplies.
Right.
They already lacked supplies coming over. In fact, some accounts have the food so infested with maggots and just other nastiness that they ate it at night so they couldn't see what they were consuming.
Oh, wow. And was this also a byproduct of merging one ship? Like, it just
part of it merging, part of it lack of supplies, part of it Dutch storefronts not wanting to do business with them. And so when they do get close to land, they try to kind of look around for a river to take further inland. Some say they were looking for the Hudson. Others disagree. But the fact of the matter is they took a vote and they decided we have to go ashore. One of the reasons is they didn't have any beer.
A staple.
You're wondering,
of America.
The Pilgrims made a beer run. Yeah. But do you know why a lot of people didn't make or drink water at that time?
I would imagine maybe cleanliness issues.
Yeah, and so
issues?
the fact is they had, what do you keep beer in? What's that called? Brain fart
kegs, Stein, keg is what I was thinking for.
A large
barrels,
a large container, a large barrel supply had gone out, and so to brew more beer, they need to set up a brewery on shore. Now, granted, they didn't land just for beer; it wasn't a kegger, but it was part of the supply of safe, clean drinking, other food supplies, and so. Part of the story that's left out of elementary education is the Mayflower Compact. They realized they weren't in Virginia. They were going to be in their own land. They had to come up with rules to govern one another. And what's interesting about this is basically it said, if it's not for the good of the colony, you can't do it. And so a lot of people that study American legal history see laws that if it's not good for your city, your state, your country, you're not allowed to do it. But we don't associate Thanksgiving with American legal history.
Right. Sure.
No, we're not always thankful for our lawyers.
All right, so let's jump ahead to now we are hearing this in a newly established colony, or at least trying to figure out our bearings there. And, of course, wintertime, you mentioned supplies are running low. Because in the kindergarten version, this is people are dying, and here comes the native population to help them, whether it's wild game, I know they're typically more agrarian at the beginning of our exposure, so growing certain crops. How much of that is true, and were those intentions what we think of as, hey, let's help you out, strangers on a boat?
A lot of that is actually true. Part of it is where the Pilgrims did decide to land was a former native village. It was a good site to build. The only problem is the natives who lived there were most likely taken out by smallpox introduced by European traders.
You're welcome, native communities. That's what England brought to the table. Your diseases.
It's a compromise. I'll take your land. I'll give you smallpox.
Right. So
not a no.
Didn't go well in negotiating tables there.
So when they landed, they were ill supplied. They're trying to make shelters for the winter. They don't have the ability to produce more food, and it goes into a time that they call the starving time. And nearly half of the 100 perished that first winter. And, it's hard to think about, but it would be not just half of the people and, my Facebook friends, M through Z are gone, but it's, your mother and your sister, or your oldest son and your grandfather. These were family units that came over.
Right. And plus, going to Holland and there, if you're not physically related, that seems like that's a bonding process.
You became
as a community.
Yeah, Christian family in that. And so later into the next year, we have an expedition going out scavenging for food. These are not people that were meant to be great explorers, survivalists, even, miners for gold. These were people that had, maybe various trade skills, but were coming to not be persecuted for their religious beliefs. And the kind of summarized version is they're coming through the woods and they come across a Native American. Now, they'd heard of Native Americans, and they would have been probably shocked to see someone wearing a very different dress, different clothing styles. And to their surprise, this native approached them and actually spoke English and said, "Welcome, Englishmen." Now, a lot of these historical movies we see, it's like, wait a second, they're speaking English, they shouldn't be.
Because it's a bit like the person landing on an alien planet and saying, hey, welcome.
Or Pocahontas singing about waterfalls as she jumps off them. And,
right. Now, if people breaking the song in actual history, that's a little scary.
Yes,
that's
although my high school prom did actually choreograph just spontaneously and had a dance. That is a lie. I'm sorry.
No, I thought maybe you had a fever dream after watching High School Musical. So
yeah, I may or may not want to start in High School Musical 7, the college years. Anyway,
we're coming, Crowder. We're coming.
What happened is that Samoset had a native friend named Squanto. Squanto essentially had been kidnapped by English traders,
like you do,
taken to England. Received his freedom and traveled back to the New World. This is an unheard of story like anything else. But he learned English from British priest.
Yeah.
And so, by this English connection, they could communicate. And because Squanto received this kind of grace from these priests, he felt that he had to kind of pay it forward.
Gotcha.
Even though he came back to find his village, now where the Pilgrims lived, gone from smallpox.
Yeah.
So, as he goes to help them, they do teach him those things of, using a fish for fertilizer, and to catch eel in the ocean, to hunt and to survive and to make more suitable structures. And Samoset and Squanto, although not native to the tribe, belonged to the Wampanoag tribe, as their native tribe died smallpox. We've already talked about that. They became allied tribes, and part of it was also because the Pilgrims did bring firearms.
Yes.
And they saw that as this is a great ally to defend us from other native tribes that they may have warred with. So, flash forward to that fall. They realized, we're going to have a harvest. Our native friends here, we have food, we're going to survive. And they did. Hence, that brings us to what we would traditionally call the first Thanksgiving.
Now let's use that to actually piggyback on something you mentioned, because you mentioned catching eel, which is in Americana we have this sort of stylized version of the dinner. There's a cornucopia, there's a turkey. Can you talk a bit about just dietarily, based on the colony's location and the natives' abilities to provide, what actually were we eating?
Some of the foods, such as squashes and corns, more fall harvest foods, would have been eaten there, and we do eat now. Hence the tradition carries over. Most historians and geographers believe that wild turkey would not have been indigenous to that part of the coast. Hence, it's something that we have interjected throughout the years. Historians debate who actually had the first turkey at Thanksgiving, but it's pretty safe to say it would not have been in 1621.
I just assume it's Ben Franklin. Just making a joke.
Stuff.
It seems to be what he does.
We should make the turkey the national bird.
That's right. Look, he brought it on the table. National bird.
America.
See if he could.
Ironically, when the Native allies were invited to this feast of these dietary items, they realized they weren't going to have enough food. The Native Wampanoag tribe showed up, and it's like, hey, there's a party in the dorms, and you're inviting all your friends.
Right.
So it's like if you've ever had an event, people show up, you don't have enough food.
Pilgrims, not early head counters.
No.
Okay.
You went to Casey's and you paid an arm and a leg for as many Ritz crackers and Milky Way bars as you could. And so the chief of the Wampanoag tribe set out and they hunted for deer. And so the main protein of that time would have been venison at the first Thanksgiving. But the thing, when we call it the first Thanksgiving, is very misleading. That's one of the things that our teachers haven't explained to us. Thanksgiving really came more from a religious term of giving thanks to a higher being, to God, it could be many things, for a great rain, for a good harvest, or a military victory. It was often seen as a religious celebration throughout time.
Right, gotcha.
And this would happen after this Thanksgiving throughout the New England colonies, not necessarily associated with this Thanksgiving, but for these various items. The question is, how has this become the one feast that we go back to?
Right.
For a while, it just kind of happened on and off.
Yes.
In 1623, some historians believe that they had Thanksgiving the middle of July because they had a feast. They had a fast, and they had great rains, and so they had a Thanksgiving feast.
Why not? Hey, celebration time, because
it's summertime.
The literal giving thanks for what just happened.
It was very much now and then in that present time.
Right.
This tradition kind of remained in Americana culture, and actually the first president of the United States would make the first declaration. And let me ask you this. Do you know the first president of the United States? A trick question coming on.
I do feel like it's because I know if I say George Washington, they'll be like, technically there's this guy before.
George Washington is the first president under the U.S. Constitution.
But he was not the first.
No, the first president under the Articles of Confederation that predated the Constitution but postdated the Declaration of Independence was a man named John Henson. John Henson had said for the fourth Thursday of November, it was to be a feast for Americans to give thanks. However, as nobody remembers John Henson, God rest his soul, this did not become a sticking point. It would be later when President Abraham Lincoln, in the throes of the Civil War, declared that
revisited
that Thursday would be the Thanksgiving, and as you have our modern day Thanksgiving.
Cool. Poor. I'm thinking about the poor president. Poor non-president president. It reminds me of a Daily Show book. Daily Show did a book on history and civics, and one of my favorite quotes from that was, "Did you know Ben Franklin was the only American president not elected president?"
A lot of people actually believe. It makes me think of that jaywalking where he goes around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Or Jimmy Kimmel did it on how Americans are uninformed during the 2012 presidential election, he went around on the street asking people, who do you think won the first lady debate last night? There's no first lady debate, but people don't want to sound uninformed, so they would say, oh, I really think she won.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think Ben Franklin was president.
And that's kind of the thing, that's what I think about. You mentioned that man on the street. When I think of Thanksgiving, or I think of really any holiday, not just Americana holiday, but things we celebrate nationally or internationally, is we create and change and alter the cultural practice to whatever it is today, and then we just sort of assume today is as it always has been. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we do this because that's what we've always done. And I think Thanksgiving especially, maybe it's because, I made the joke earlier where we don't really have the holiday in terms of it's kind of, Halloween is a cultural celebration, and then there's several holidays within the Christmas and holiday season and Hanukkah and all those. And Thanksgiving, even though it's part of Americana, it doesn't really, like I said, we're not like, I can't wait to learn more about Thanksgiving. We're just like, people, Indians got it.
Yeah, and anymore it's that's the start of the Christmas shopping season. But as you may have seen in current events this year, stores are opening on Thanksgiving Day. It's almost just saying, no, you're not a holiday anymore.
Right.
It has changed over time. I joked about my Detroit Lions losing almost every year since 1933.
Right. Yep.
That hasn't always been around. Macy's State Parade starting 1924. That hasn't always been around. One thing that is still around but isn't as popular are church services. Mm-hmm. There's a church service of Thanksgiving where it's actually worship service that could be done at any time with liturgy towards thanks to God.
Yeah.
As opposed to the feast, but churches often gave these services at Thanksgiving time, often on Thanksgiving Day. Many Protestant churches still do, but that's not something that you see families saying, well, we have to go to church and then dinner, or dinner and then to church.
Right.
It's something that is seen, well, I'm going to put on my stretchy pants and sit on the couch and expand.
So I guess the last question will be, will you come back and dispel more historic and or holiday myths for us?
I'm here.
Basically, will you come back and ruin childhoods?
That is my dream.
People.
Oh man, when I show the clip from Pocahontas and explain how it's not true, I have college students that cry themselves
That's
to
right.
sleep.
Raccoons will never be your friend. They are vicious, dangerous animals.
I'll be here to help as long as I have a job. Thank you, Dr. Colthorpe.
Who's a listener, so it never hurts to stroke that ego.
Yes.
In fact, he made fun of me this morning and my pronouncing of Monette from last week. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Cole.
How did you say
I said Monet, just without thinking.
That's what I called it when I first moved here.
Right.
My argument to all of that, I'll ask, are you from the South? And they'll say yes. And I said, I'm from Michigan. We won the Civil War. And I just dropped it.
Man, because I'm from Louisiana, I can't even say that. I got no ties.
This shows that North and South are united in debunking myths.
That's what we do. All right, well, we'll take a break there, and we'll come back. We'll wrap things up. So, see you then.
Adios.
I know you know that I'm not telling the truth. I know you know. Just don't have any ways the deception. Learn how to bend your worst inhibitions. Gonna psych you out in the end.
So tell us about zombies.
Well, there's a new thing on Daily Show called Buzzkill of Science.
Nice.
And so Neil deGrasse Tyson comes on and he says, here's the reason why zombies can't exist. And here's a couple reasons. First off, you can't kill something that's already dead.
Yeah.
Darn.
Kind of the beginning of the whole thing.
Can zombies chase after you? No, they can't even stand because of rigor mortis. He talks about how rigor mortis would set in. Thirdly, their circulatory system wouldn't work because you need oxygenated blood.
Yes.
So there you go. You wouldn't even be able to move, or like whenever you kill a zombie, like blood shoots out. Right. Like. It wouldn't. It'd be more
for muscle action. You need that. So sure.
Here's the biggie one. The biggie one. Here's the big one.
The giant one.
Your zombies wouldn't crave brain because fatty tissues doesn't trigger leptins that trigger hunger whenever you're dead. So whenever you're dead, you don't produce any leptins in your fatty tissue, and thus you wouldn't crave anything. Thanks a lot, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Thanks for making me not be scared of
One last thing. This made me laugh out loud watching Daily Show. When something bites you, you don't turn into that thing. Like if a mosquito bites you, you don't be like, oh, I'm a mosquito.
Man, that's good, because that'd be like a toddler. Yeah, I've had that happen.
Or like a dog bites you, you don't go,
a little bit.
I have laughed so much this episode. This has been a fun episode.
I was dying of sickness, so I hate you. No, that's fine.
Yeah, and once again to reiterate, I called Nathan while he's on his deathbed, saying like, "Hey, psychology nerd, I need something."
I know you're sick, but I need to talk about racist people.
But again, that just shows like we just don't ever bump into each other at the end of the week.
I try to avoid him whenever possible. I like this to be our only time.
Hey, Nathan, he does this.
Yeah, the guy in the vest. Oh God.
All right, am I becoming the guy in the sweater vest on Crowder's campus?
I don't know that many people with sweater vests, so I'm gonna say yeah.
I'm hot, but my arms are cold. I know I've said that already before.
I know your problem, I think. Let's wrap things up. But tell us real quick, how'd your team do?
Oh, our team did great.
You talked about the beginning, but didn't tell us how you did.
23 wins overall, nets us a third place overall in debate sweepstakes. Now, when I say overall, that means 4-year and 2-year.
Cool.
The only 2 schools that beat us were universities, and so we rounded out the top 3 as a community college, and that does ultimately mean we're a community college. One of our Psych Out listeners, Will Wheeler, was our biggest scorer. He was in semifinalist of varsity, and also Rachel Stillions placed in a interp event. So,
I love interp.
So we had some interp wins and we had some debate wins. But the third place debate sweepstakes really kind of sets us apart from other schools, being like, look, we're here just because we're a community college doesn't mean we're going to back down.
Absolutely. So. Now tell us about also real quick this weekend.
Oh, this is whenever we're simply hosting the Rough Rider high school speech tournament. So we host a high school speech tournament for area high schools to bring their kids and stuff.
Cool.
And it's shaping up to be the biggest one yet. It's because we did some little changes to the event descriptions and things like that. So instead of having one type of debate, we're going to have 2 new types of debate that have novice divisions, and it's going to be a big fundraiser for us. Not nearly as big as the Festival of Wreaths, but it's really going to be a big headache if I don't start working on it right now.
I gotcha. And I'm sad to admit, on camera and on air, we're going to be out of town.
Oh, that's okay. No, during the high school tournament, we have college students that either do it for extra credit or service seed.
Oh, cool.
So no, I don't need you. I need you guys for October Slam. So Mandy, if you're listening,
next October,
first weekend in October of 2014.
Man, write it down. Well, you got anything else? Because that was me.
That's episode 40.
I brought a robot doll because Mandy sent me with it. She said, take this and put it on it.
Oh, cool.
His name is Gurr. He's a robot.
Gurr.
And there it is.
We've decided that we're going to do 1 toy a week, and we're going to go back and forth. So next week, there goes Batgirl.
Oh, Lord.
Next week, you should...
Everything is falling apart.
What did you do, Ray?
No. All right.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Get your guys over here closer to my guys.
No,
my angry bird is sad.
I don't like them.
So much of our show now is visual.
Actually, her words were, I want you to take this so you can have something to throw at Jason when he throws the bird at you. So,
throw me Gurr, I throw you bird.
All right, Jason. Well, let's wrap things up. So, closing thoughts?
Have a good week and
a good Thanksgiving. Though
Thanksgiving,
we're gonna do kind of a super special condensed science podcast on Thanksgiving week because that's the only time we could get Russ Hopper.
Yeah, you guys heard Keith. Sometimes Thanksgiving is in the middle of the summer, so
right.
You're going to be getting our
take that, Abraham Lincoln. We'll do it when we want to.
Yeah, so we'll have like a little energy podcast during the actual Thanksgiving.
I need some energy and then a break. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Just one more to go, sir.
Yeah. Live read /
Ow! Shocked me.
Oh, it shocked you?
Yes. Oh.